so? Because water is so very essential in all aspects of life. The human being is over 70% of water to start with. But certainly in industry, in health, sanitation, tourism, agriculture, all need water. And the issue is that the region is very water stressed. And as you may know, we are a region that is very vulnerable to climate change and its impacts. And we see recently we have had climatic changes, variability in the climate that has caused cycles of drought versus cycles of flooding. And we need to work together as a region to try to manage our water resources better.
Okay, just before I ask Mr. Corbin about the theme, when you say water stress, what does that mean?
It means that scarcity. There is not sufficient potable water to meet the needs of all of our citizens. Some member states of CARICOM more so than others. For example, countries like Antigua, St. Kitts, Barbados are severely water stressed.
Well, how does that happen on the islands? I mean, that's so wrong.
Well, we are talking mainly here about potable water, fresh water. The islands, we have a lot, we have an abundance of seawater. And it's a good point you raise because some member states, including Antigua, has had to depend on desalination of water to provide fresh water. But that is a very expensive process.
The theme this year, please, Mr. Corbin?
Focusing on sustainable development and on security, and again, just emphasizing what we have, integrated water resource management. But what does that really mean? It really means that in all aspects of development, links with energy, links with food security, links with agriculture, we really need to improve the management of that resource. I think, again, we think we're blessed, you know, water is available, water is everywhere, but we have real issues with water quality because of pollution. We have a lot of runoff, a lot of sediment, a lot of wastewater, a lot of sewage potentially affecting our water supplies. And then you have poor land use practices, the deforestation, improper coastal development, all of that are directly impacting on water. And when you think of it, the water has to be treated, it has to be collected, it has to be transported, and that costs money. So I think we also have a lot to do in making our public more aware of what they can do in terms of water conservation measures.
With regard to water conservation and the conference that's going on, the 5-day conference, I'm wondering what implications are there when you think of bottled water one and the sustainability of that industry, because we're looking at also plastics and how the plastics can get back into the environment, because we seem to have a mental block when it comes to taking an empty bottle and throwing it in a can.
That is indeed a challenge, and it was a topic of a discussion yesterday at the meeting. So you have to balance the utility of that versus the production of waste, and that's why it's not just it's water and waste management that come into play there. It is a fact on a personal level that I think has not been one of the most welcoming facts, in that people think it is cool to use bottled water, and I'm not against the industry as such, but it needs some awareness of the disposal of these bottles, and there were some discussions regarding legislation and regulation by governments where it would have been nice if there was a value placed to these containers so that people recycle them. If you can earn from, for example, when we had the bottle industry, you can exchange for money. I think that would have helped, but it really creates a significant problem of waste management and pollution of our waterways, our seas, because most of it end up in the sea. The people throw them in the rivers, they get washed out into the seas, and that is a serious cause for concern.
The conference has started already. What are some of the things that have come out of it? What are some of the responses, and who have you really kind of targeted to be part of it?
Well, we at UN Environment, we have seen this conference as really a unique and ideal opportunity to bring together several different players across the sector. I think one of the real advantages, first of all, is bringing the private sector. So you have private sector interests there who are responsible for making many of the government persons more aware of what are some of the technologies out there that could help improve delivery of water, treatment of water, improve general environment and human health. A significant part of the conference as well is the opportunity to bring together ministers. Just yesterday we had the opening of the high-level ministerial forum. So we are taking some very technical issues and trying to package them into some key policy decisions that hopefully, and Dr. Slater at CARICOM here will say, hopefully the ministers can bring forward to the highest CARICOM level. And then we have the operators. You have persons working utilities, people who are working on the ground, having the challenges in terms of providing water. You have regulators, and then you have your civil society community, your NGOs. And they were there yesterday lobbying and wondering why government wasn't doing more to prevent pollution, to control solid waste, to improve water. And for us, that's a real uniqueness of this conference, to really hear the different positions, understand the issues from different perspectives, so hopefully we can come up with better solutions.
Yeah. If I may add to that, is that CARICOM plays a coordinating role in all of this. As you may know, we are a government regional organization. And as Chris was saying, it is important that our policymakers are at the table, because despite whatever some people may think of politicians, they are the ones who make the policies. And we have to be guided in the various member states by the laws, the legislation. And but it was I think it is noteworthy to reiterate that it is a community of stakeholders, all who have their role to play, that are present. And our public, we talked about awareness earlier, we must reiterate that, because the public must understand that water just doesn't fall from the sky, the rain, free from God, and therefore it must be free. It, as Chris said, it costs to collect, to treat, to distribute, costs a lot. It is a cost that ends up at the foot of the taxpayers anyhow. But if our public understands all of that, I think they will go better to conservation of our water resources.
Coming out of the conference, what are some of the low-hanging fruit that we want to actually pick up?
Well, what we learned, especially during some of the earlier sessions this week, the interest of many of the regional projects, there are funds out there, the development banks like Inter-American Development Bank, our own office at UN Environment, we see an opportunity to partner so that the support that's being given to different countries, including Trinidad and Tobago, is actually maximized. We've noticed over the last couple of days that there are lots of activities going on, but perhaps not coordinated. And one of the first recommendations that we heard was just getting an understanding of who is doing what, where there's potential for getting money that will support projects on the ground. And then an issue which is now gaining a little bit more recognition is how do we deal with the issue of wastewater? Because we talk a lot about water, but the more water you generate and use, it's the more wastewater you have to deal with. And we've heard a lot of talk as well, maybe not ready yet for wastewater going directly to drinking water, but certainly an opportunity maybe in the manufacturing sector, the industrial sector, to promote more wastewater reuse. And that is something which I believe that we should definitely target.
I think many times when we're in drought, we have PSAs coming in, put something in the tank so you don't need as much, or different ways of using it, grey water, but at the same time, when it seems the rainy season is here, that goes out the window.
Yes.
So in terms of having that awareness all the time, because we don't want it, I guess, to be reached a point where it's water everywhere, but not a drop to drink.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we have to really try to keep it on the front burner all the time, and that is why we talk about awareness and information. And we have organizations that can provide us with a lot of information. We have the regional organization, the Caribbean Meteorological Institute, that has provided some very interesting information yesterday that they can sort of provide to the member states to get some level of predictability of droughts versus flood, and how you can mitigate, you know, the damage of these extreme weather conditions. And I think that is a good outcome. It's for our member states to get engaged with the specialists, the professional and technical agencies that provide this information.
Right, but we want to thank you very much, gentlemen, Dr. Douglas Slater and Christopher Corbin, for actually giving us an idea and raising the issue and saying that it's something that we need to keep looking at, something that we need to go forward to, because we don't want to be on an island and say, okay, well, everyone is water stressed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you so much, gentlemen, and thank you. This is Good Morning Trinidad and Tobago. We have more. Stay with us.